So let's start the conversation with the team owner, Jason Meyers, here on the program. And Jason, congratulations on the ownership. Looks like you got yourself a pretty good race car driver.
Well, that's it's a big piece of the puzzle, right? So we do. Corey is just a great young talent. I've known Corey since he was, well, I've known him since he was born. Ronnie Day, his father, actually used to drive our sprint car here in California. I grew up racing with Ronnie. I mean, when I got started in sprint car racing out here, it was really Ronnie and Brent Kading that were the two kind of guys to beat out here and mentors really that we were chasing and learning from. So it's just been, a great family, and to have the opportunity here to help Corey get started in his career, it's just, it's been a blessing. I mean, we enjoy it. It's fun, good family, good people, and the fact that he can just wheel the heck out of the car makes it just a lot of fun.
How does something like that come about for you guys, Jason? Obviously, you kind of hung up your helmet a few years back, and now to come in as an owner, how did that really transpire? Is it something that Corey or Ronnie came to you and said, "Hey, let's start a team"? Is it something that you dreamt up? Were y'all just sitting around hanging out, and this kind of came to fruition? How did it really boil down to getting him in a race car?
I think it's kind of like, anything like this. So for me, when I left racing, was okay. I'm going to go and I'm going to start a business, and 5 years from now, I'll build a business. I can come back and I can be an owner. I still love the sport. I love what it does, but my kids are at the age to go to school, and I want to do something different. We made that decision, and I wanted to be home. I didn't want to be away from my kids. So we came home, did some things in business, started the business, and here we are 10 years later. Took a little longer than I thought. But we put the team together a few years ago. Really, we just kind of had a little bit of stuff, and I drove it for a couple of years, and then decided I just didn't have the time to do it. And then things kind of sat around a little bit. We put a few different people in the car, and it was kind of one of those things that we actually like. I know what this stuff costs, right? So kind of fought it and said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to spend money on that. I'm not going to do it. And in the meantime, Corey had started racing 600cc micros out here, and I've watched Corey since he was 5 years old at my house, jumping triples on his, KTM 65, and just he's always been talented. I mean, just anything he gets in, and reminded me a lot of myself as a kid. Anything you got on and did, you did to the nth degree, and it's just been fun watching him grow up. And he got into the micros and did really well. And it was actually Preston Cross, who was my crew chief when I was really young out here on the West Coast. We've been good friends ever since. And Preston kind of got involved with him on the micro stage, and I helped a little bit, but not too much. I was busy in the business, and kind of like didn't want to get bit by the bug a little bit. And then one thing led to another, and it's just we like I said, we kind of fought it that like I don't know that I really have time to do it. And Ronnie and Carol bought Brad Furr's team and ran Corey a little bit, and we helped out a little bit with that too. And it just got to where like we can't keep resisting this. Like, he's talented, he's good. We all want to do it, So we just really, HP Myatt, who is my manager at my steel division, he puts in a ton of work to make all this happen, and I put in very little work. And just my guidance and what funding I can put in, and we've got the All-Star came on board to help out. So I finally just, between Preston and I, just we bit the bullet. We've invested some money and got some help from All-Star and several others as well. And here we go. So, and you know what? The kid's making us look good, so it's all worth it apparently.
Jason, when you're an athlete, when you're at the top of the game, you're a two-time World of Outlaw champion, all those wins in the World of Outlaws. Does the ownership, does the crew chief, does the hands-on, does that kind of scratch your competitive itch well enough for you, or do you still desire to maybe get in there and drive, or are you good with your role right now?
I'm great with my role right now. I don't have the energy at the end of the week with everything that's going on in the business. And, right now we've got baseball, softball, soccer, tennis, guitar, and racing going on with our kids. So my wife definitely does not have the nerves for me to be in a race car at the end of the week. It's bad enough with her son being in one. And I just don't have the, with our, and that's not to mention the business, and we're building a new facility and everything else. So my hands are full, and I watch these kids go out and beat the wall and bang the cushion. I'm like, yeah, that was fun when I did it, but no thanks anymore. and I beat my head against the wall every day in business. So I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I think, one of the greatest rewards in life is to be able to pay something forward. And so many people mentored me and gave me guidance and gave me assistance, whether it was sponsors or just, racers that gave me knowledge, car owners that gave me knowledge. And, you know, half or more of what I know in business, I got out of racing through car owners that were business owners and things of that nature. So I think one of, Ashley, you're talking about having a child, and I think one of the greatest joys in life is to teach your children what you know, the good things that you know anyway, and then teach them about the bad things that you know, so hopefully they can avoid them. So this is that same instance to be able to, I got this experience for a few years there with Carson Macedo, and still to this day mentor him, and to be able to just give some people some shortcuts of experiences that you've been through and give them knowledge. And I will say this, it takes a good learner though, because it's no fun to teach somebody who is stubborn and doesn't listen. But to take somebody that absorbs it and takes it and uses it, there's nothing more gratifying in the world, whether it's your children or somebody like Carson Macedo or Corey Day. It's just, it's what brings joy in life, in my opinion.
I love what you just said. To pay it forward, whether it's the knowledge that you've gained or the financial side of things, to pay it forward is absolutely incredible. And Jason, I want to talk about that because you said you got bit by the bug again. Obviously, hanging up the helmet is not an easy transition, especially when it was such a large part of your life and you were so successful with it. What was that like for you? Was it difficult? How did you kind of pull yourself away from it?
Um, so I think it's why AA exists. I think it's really what it is. It's something they say, if you're going to stop drinking, you got to take the alcohol out of the house. And with racing, it was very similar. If I remember the first couple of years were extremely difficult, and I think you go, especially when you're changing careers, because you're going from you spend 10, 15, 20 years building relationships and being to where you can pick up the phone and call, and someone says, oh, hey Jason, what's going on, what can I do for you, right? You've earned that respect, you've earned people know why you're calling, and then you leave that and you go to a new world where you pick up the phone and you introduce yourself and they say, hi, this is Jason Meyers, and they say, I'm sorry, who are you? It's like, oh my God, it's been 10 years since I had to do this. And it's humbling, it's difficult, you kind of like you're learning how to walk again a little bit, if you will. And so that was more that challenge than anything, of having to remember that, like, oh, I got to educate people about who I am and what I'm trying to do, and I got to prove myself all over again. So that was the hard part, is just going from having that, you just have these tools at your exposure once you build a career, and then to have to start over was probably the most difficult thing. And then fortunately for me, Tom and Tommy Tarleton gave me the opportunity to still race there for a few years and run pretty much any races I wanted to run. So that helped with the transition a little bit and kind of weaned me off of it. And so I was able to, build the business up as racing was kind of tapering down a little bit. And fortunately for me, I got into the construction field, which a lot of construction people are in racing. So 50% of the time when I walked in the door to meet somebody, they were like, I didn't realize I was talking to Jason Meyers, a race car driver. Like, so it broke the ice and made that a lot better. So, but it was a difficult transition, and not a lot of people understood why it was so difficult. And I ran into somebody one day he was a banker, and he had played professional football. And he asked me at the end of the meeting, he said, so how are you doing? And I'm like, was there like a sign on my forehead that said I'm struggling? Like, it was the first person that actually got it. And I sat and talked with him for about 15 minutes. And he explained that, like, yeah, when I went through that, I remember just feeling that, like, nobody understood what I was going through. I'm like, wow, like, it really is that way. Everybody thinks you should be so grateful. And he's like, yeah, but I don't even know what I'm feeling. So, I used to, I think I've shared this before, maybe even on the show, that one of my biggest anxieties was like shopping at Target on a Saturday. Like, I couldn't stand the crowd. Like, you spend your whole life living your days off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, right? And then all of a sudden your wife's like, you want to go to Target on Saturday? I'm like, hell no. Like, no thanks. Not on your life, right? Like, just things you never think about. You never anticipate things like that.
You are so wise with that because I know working weekends with MRN, my Tuesday, Wednesday shopping trips are a blessing, and I'm with you. Saturdays, Friday nights, Sundays at those places, no, never, ever. Jason, one of the things that listening to some recent interviews with Corey and some other folks nearby, they say, Jason's a pretty good crew chief, and you've established that you're not hands-on involved with the team night in and night out. But when it comes to race time, how active are you involved in it? And do you like being that role of crew chief involved with the car itself?
Yeah, I think, when I was racing, I enjoyed the designing of the race cars. And, we did our own shock program. We did our own chassis program. We worked with Charlie Garrett on our own engine program. And I always enjoyed, all three aspects. I enjoyed being a driver. I enjoyed working on my stuff and being a mechanic and designing things and working with, our suppliers and stuff to design things, make it better. And also the business and sponsorship side. I really enjoyed the relationship side of things as well. So for me, putting my helmet up was only really putting 1/3 up of what I enjoyed about the sport. So to get to still come back in the capacity of an owner and the sponsorship side of things as well, the marketing side of things, which I do that in business every day. So to do that part, and then to be involved with, okay, how are we going to make this thing faster? Like we ran pretty good with Corey last year, but we weren't on H tires. And then we went to Tulare 3 weeks ago and didn't make the show either night. And our car was terrible. And, people were kind of like, oh, I think Corey was nervous. I'm like, he wasn't nervous. That thing looked miserable at Tulare of all places. Like you couldn't pick a worse place to be uncomfortable. And, we made some changes that very next week, and he went right out and felt good, and his confidence came in, and he's run good ever since. So that's satisfying as well. I literally laid in bed last night for an hour and a half, looking at Jacob's ladder geometry and stuff. Actually, not for that car, but for my kid's car, because I can't get that car to turn. And I got a 7-year-old that actually gives me pretty good feedback, but he gets out, but he also has no filter and tells me that his car doesn't turn. It's not fast, Dad, and the other cars are faster, right? So pulling at my heartstrings, I got to fix it.
I love it. This is so cool. Jason, you talk about that 1/3 is just hanging your helmet up. Obviously, with Corey, he's a young kid. You talk about your son. These guys molding them and not throwing them into something too deep too quickly is obviously huge in this sport because this sport can eat you up and chew you and spit you out real quick. How much of that do you also explain to, Corey and your son, that we've got things to work towards, goals to build, and to do it the right way?
Well, so it just so happens that's a great question. So we had that this weekend, and I think, one thing that I enjoy coaching that really took me to ultimately winning championships is the mindset to do this. And if you say you want to go race the Outlaws, like you don't know really what you're talking about yet until you've gone out and done it and lived on the road and lived in the hotels. And, these kids too are going to have to learn how to do laundry, right? Like they've never done this stuff. So to really look at the mind aspect of it. And this just occurred this weekend. Like we're racing at Paris. Carson, who I mentored and still help and sponsor and is a dear friend, and Corey in my cars and our cars start on the front row of the heat race together, and Corey beat him on the start. And so then they go out for the dash and they pull the 1 and the 2. They're starting on the front row again. And I told him before he went out, I said, look, you made him look bad in the heat race, right? You smoked him on the start. It's not going to go that way again. Just know that it's not going to go that way. You need to attack this differently. And he went out, and in my opinion, honestly, kind of did the same thing. And Carson hit the throttle, run over his left front, broke the front axle, crashed, and it was a big deal, And so we don't finish the dash. We come in, and then Carson actually came over to apologize, and he asked me hey, what happened? And we're trying to fix the car. And there was a part of me that was not pissed, but I'm trying to fix the race car at this moment. So I was kind of like, hey man, I don't know what happened. This isn't the right time. And then him and Corey kind of got into it a little bit, and it got awkward. And so things went away, and so they went out and they ran the race, and Corey did a great job, and we finished on the front straightaway. Carson ran third, and Corey ran second. And I congratulated Corey, told him great job, and I grabbed him by the shoulders and I said, hey, you got a lot of years ahead of you. And I realized that you were pissed off. I said, but you got a chance to walk over and talk to Carson right now. go tell him you didn't appreciate the fact of how he raced you. I didn't like it when you came and said something to me in the pits. I wasn't ready to talk to you, but I'm over it. Let's squash this. Let's move on. I respect you. I hope you respect me. And I just don't appreciate it. And he did. He walked right over and talked to him, shook his hand. And because you can't, part of me and what I'll coach you more in this week when we talk more is, hey, he ran you over, but you also put yourself in a spot where your left front was exposed. You got to think about that. You can control that. Don't put your left front where somebody can take you out. Don't expose yourself, right? So I really enjoy that side of it, and then teaching the mindset and teaching, like, you can you have all the talent in the world, but you got to be able to survive the head game of the sport. And that is a really, really big piece of it.
Wow, that's fascinating. Such great insight. Absolutely amazing. That's for sure. So, we're in this. We have this weekend where Corey gets 2 second place finishes, and we go on social media, and he is the next coming of Steve Kinzer and Donnie Schatz combined with Sammy Swindell and Doug Wolfgang. Okay, we get that. How do you manage that now, and getting back to your program and what the plan is here for 2022?
So I think first of all, we probably need to take his social media away from him this week, so he's not reading all that stuff. And it's funny because social media really was just getting started when I got out of the sport. So really, hose heads, the message boards was the thing before that. And I remember when I was racing, like, I would never read hose heads because just the negativity and the judgment and all the stuff. And when people would come and say, "Oh, did you see what they said on hose heads today?" Nope, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want you to read. I don't. It's to me, like, if you want to say something to me, come say something to me and we'll talk about it, or call me on the phone, we'll talk about it. But I don't need a keyboard warrior telling me what I should or shouldn't do, or, I appreciate the congrats too, but, I just chose to ignore it all. So, today is really where the world is. I mean, this is how sponsorship works, the impressions and the likes and all the stuff you get. I mean, the outreach that drivers have now. I mean, look at the apparel businesses that Kevin Swindell and Rico Abreu have built through social media. It is unbelievable, and just a great tool. I believe it's been amazing for our sport, between what Dirt Vision and Speed Sport have done with the digital, media and stuff, and Flow and all these things. I mean, we tune into almost every race anymore. I prefer to watch that than regular television. So, we manage it in the fact of, hey, we need that stuff, and to get him to where he wants to go, he needs that stuff. So we welcome it. We'll manage it. We'll try to coach him on the, hey, you don't believe what people say. You just good or bad. Don't read the media. Just let it happen around you, and engage it. I think one thing that I will guide him on a little bit that I think I missed out on is I tried to stay so much out of that I think I should have engaged the character a little bit more. I think to be popular and to really build your persona, I think you need to. Scott Bloomquist told me that one time that, like, you need to play into that more. You're too vanilla. And looking back, I would say he was right. And it just wasn't me at the time. I don't know that I had the kind of the education or to do that. And looking back now, that was one thing that I would do differently had I had some mentorship or help a little earlier with that. So that's one thing I'll mentor both. I've mentored Carson and both Corey in of, you have to play into this to a degree, and decide who you want to be as a character, who do you want to be, and then be that person and own it. So we'll kind of see where that goes.
It's a fine line that you have to kind of teeter on and know exactly where you need to be with that. But a weekend like this past weekend, and 2 second place finishes in 3 World of Outlaw races, does that maybe kind of change a little bit of a plan for what the 2022 season was, or are you still on course?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I woke up the other morning with, like, okay, what do we do? Do we find him a ride, or do we find a sponsor and produce a ride? Like, what do we do? So, Corey's still got school to finish, and that's important. And I think, a lot of times anymore, kids grow up too fast. So it's important that he gets through his schooling. We are planning this year to come back to Knoxville. We're going to send our stuff back in July. And I don't believe in just going back to run the Nationals. I think you're setting yourself up for failure. You can't show up and go 2 hot laps and then go out and cut the best lap of your life on a track you've never seen. So we're going to go back in July and take our stuff back there. We're trying to make all the arrangements for that now. We still got some things to work out, but and then kind of fly back and forth and race him 5 or 6 weekends, we hope, before the Nationals. So that's our plan, and we'll just kind of see where it goes from there. You know, a lot of it kind of depends on funding and things of that. You know, we don't have an unlimited checkbook at this point, so we'll continue to just see how things develop and work on. And we've got a lot to do. Like honestly, he's kind of he is growing at a faster pace than we're actually ready for. So we got some catching up to do here, both with the team and media and just promotion and things like that. So we got to work. We got to work cut out for us. I don't know where we're going to come up with the time, but we're going to figure it out because he's doing his part. So we're definitely going to do ours.
So that is the owner's perspective. Let's bring the driver into the conversation. Corey, welcome into Wing Nation. And as we as we've kicked around a little bit with Jason, kind of your thoughts on the big weekend that you had with those 2 second place finishes.
Yeah, it was good. It was definitely a surprise. You know, on Friday when we qualified at Bakersfield, I thought my laps were horrible. You know, I blew it over the cushion my first lap, and then the second lap turned out to be like third quick. I think I ended up fourth at the end there. So it was definitely a surprise. Same thing with Paris. I thought I messed my lap up too, but I think I hit 1 and 2 just good enough to be able to be good there. So yeah, I mean it was good.
Corey, you have the first, second place finish, and you know some people start to say things. Oh well, he just got lucky, or this, that, or the other thing. But then you back it up with a second place finish. Did that kind of put a breeze in your sail, a chip on your shoulder? I mean, to know that you belong and that you can be successful with the World of Outlaws.
Yeah, that was good. The first night there, the top 3 crashed out. I kind of got a gift from God there. So second night to do it, you know, the right way and drive around Sweet and Hodensfield and Carson, all those guys. That was definitely good.
Yeah, drive around them. It was impressive, that's for sure. It was late nights on the East Coast, but I actually had a chance to watch both of the features, and you did well, that is for sure. When we look at this, the reaction has been through the roof. I mean, it's just been unreal. We've got you full-time World of Outlaws. We've got you Knoxville National Champion. How do you process all of this and get focused back onto what your program is at this point?
I kind of just I like to kind of stay in my own lane and do my own thing. So I answer all the texts. I appreciate everyone for, you know, telling me good job and all the stuff, but it's always back to business for me. I don't really like to be you know, the center of attention or like, you know, just the main guy. So it's all business for me. I'm there to do my job and I'm there to win. So that's what I try and focus on.
Speaking of being all business, obviously your team owner, Jason Meyers, knows this sport all too well and how it takes to make that path happen. How much has it been an attribute to you and your career thus far to have Jason on board, knowing that you can turn to him for advice?
I mean, it's huge. He's yeah, like you said, he knows the sport, the ins and outs of it about literally everything. So, he's good with the social media part of it, good with coaching me in the driver's seat. He's great crew chief. He basically knows everything there is to know about the sport. So it's been really it's helped me out a lot that if I have any questions or I'm unsure about something with basically anything in the sport, he knows and I can just ask him.
What's your dad's reaction to all of this? He's a sprint car racer, had a lot of success running sprint car racing. What's kind of your dad's reaction? Does he kind of sit back and take it all in, or how active are you and he as far as communication goes?
Yeah, he's really proud of me. He, you know, he's had good finishes with the Outlaws too, but he was definitely shocked when I ran that good. So, no, we're really good. You know, I talked to him about it. We're basically all we talk about is racing. So, we've ran the race back in each other's heads about 10,000 times already and talked about it and everything else. So he's definitely a second driver coach. Him and Jason definitely helped me out. So having Jason and my dad there built my whole career is definitely, you know, shortened up my learning curve for sure.
The big thing of the weekend, I think, was knowing that Gio Scelzi winning, you finishing second, makes for the youngest top 2 ever. And then, of course, that opened a whole nother avenue of things, knowing that you could ultimately be the youngest driver to ever win a World of Outlaws race. You have till September 18th to make that happen. Is that something that you want to check off your list?
Yeah, yeah, that's been the goal ever since that Gio broke the record there. I think he did it at the National Open like 2018 or something. So I was still running micros at that time, but I saw him do that, and I definitely wanted to be that guy. So Dominic and Gio have always, been like a big brother to me. I race with Dominic weekly out here, and he's just like my dad, Jason. He coaches me through everything, and he's definitely been a big help for me this year, hanging out with him.
No doubt. Pretty cool stuff, that is for sure. So where do you want to go with this, Corey? Do you want to be the next big NASCAR superstar? Do you want to be a Formula One Indy driver? Do you want to be a World of Outlaw driver? Do you have aspirations as to where you'd like to see this journey go to?
Um, you know, I'd like to go to the Outlaws, and if it goes farther than that to NASCAR or IndyCar, wherever it goes, of course, I'd take that route. But I'd say the goal right now is definitely to go to the Outlaws.
Well, Jason shared with us that you're pretty talented. You're one of those guys that can get behind the wheel of anything and you master it pretty quick. Is there something through your childhood that helped that, or is it just a natural gift that you've been given?
There's pictures of me probably 6 months old getting held by my mom in one of those carriers at the racetrack with my dad and in Victory Lane pictures. So I'd say going to the races since I was really, really young definitely helped out. And my dad raced up until I think 2012 or beginning of 2013 was his last year. And I was like 5 to 7 was when I kind of started to understand it, and I'd go to the races with him every Friday. So I got to, learn about it really, really young and learned a lot about it really fast. So that definitely helped out. And then I ran micros for 4 years, and I also had, guys like Jake Agopian who took me under his wing, and my dad, being a driver, and he was really good with the car too. So everything, like I said, it's just shortened up my learning curve with the people that are around me.
Corey, I share this story. Years ago, we had a kid named Dominic Selzy on after his first King of the West win or something, and he had to go to the teacher's lounge to call because he was still in school and carrying on. You're still in school. What's your daily routine like? School? Do your classmates follow along with you? What's that life like?
So I'm actually online school now. Last year I was in person school still, but we still got to wear a mask at school, and racing's starting to get pretty serious for me. So I've transferred to online school, and there's a couple of my friends who keep up with me from school still, but none of them really understand it that much. There's one of my friends from school that I'd bring to the races with me as much as I can because he's into it and he wants to learn about the car and stuff, but he's the only one that does. So I bring him along and try and teach him, and he's really interested about it. So it's cool.
That's absolutely awesome. So, school, obviously, trying to check that off the list, doing it online so you can race at the same time. It's incredible to see that your future is going to blossom, obviously. But this past weekend is huge. Obviously, if people don't know your name now, they're living under a rock. But what is it from this weekend that you can really kind of take a hold of and actually use going into the future, whether it's on or off the racetrack, to really help your career?
Um, on the racetrack for sure, I definitely learned, racing with the Outlaws this month, that I learned how to run a faster pace of the race. So I definitely think I'm going to be more competitive weekly out here. And the way the Outlaws run their program, it's really fast, and everything just gets done really quick. So it'll definitely make my job out here a lot easier when we got support classes and everything else. So it'll just be slowed down out here for sure.
So, short-term future here, King of the West Series. I think it's the Asparagus Cup this weekend in Stockton, and you're going to do 360 racing out there as well. Or what's kind of the next few weeks? What's that look like for you guys?
Yeah, this Saturday I'm gonna run Stockton in the 14, and my dad, my family owns a trucking company, and my dad, he has to go fill in for a driver this week, so I don't think there's a race at Watsonville on Friday for the 360, so I don't know if we're gonna make that with my family car or not. So if we do, I'll be running Friday at Watsonville in the 41 in the 360, and then Saturday at Stockton. and then I haven't even looked honestly what's next after that, but I think I got like 75 races on the schedule this year, so should be good.